On the eve of the typhoon. My husband abandoned me and the cat to go find his white moonlight. He said, she's timid. She's always been most afraid of thunder and rain. I'll feel more at ease if I go stay with her for a while. I watched his back as he walked away. Then I packed his luggage and attached 2 copies of the divorce agreement. Get out. I'm not afraid of the rain and I don't need you either. Chapter 1. On the eve of the typhoon's arrival. I was holding the cat and about to go to sleep. But my husband was clutching his phone, his expression grave. All of a sudden, he threw on his coat and said, I need to go out for a while. Thunder and lightning were raging outside. What urgent matter could possibly require him to leave at a time like this? There was a faint trace of anxiety in Pablo's voice. The typhoon is coming. Selena has been terrified of thunder and rain since she was little. She just came back to the country and her apartment doesn't have any supplies stocked up. The balcony windows haven't been reinforced either. I'm going to check on her. Everyone will feel more at ease that way. That sentence landed like a slap across my face. Selena was Pablo's college classmate. She was also his first love. 8 years ago, she went abroad to study and the two of them broke up with regret. Now it had been less than a week since she returned. And he already could not wait to go care for her. For once, I became stubborn. Are you really going to leave me home alone at a time like this? If you can't stop worrying about Selena, why can you stop worrying about me? A trace of hesitation appeared on Pablo's face. But he quickly shook his head. The house is very safe. There's nothing for me to worry about. He was right. The house had plenty of dry food and drinking water stored. The doors and windows had all been reinforced too. I had done it all little by little myself. Pablo was always busy with work and never paid attention to these small things. But it turned out that he could worry after all. Worry about another woman. As if he could not wait even one more second to fly to her side. Pain spread through my chest and I said coldly, Pablo, if you insist on leaving, then don't come back. But the only thing he left me with was that expressionless face of his. Julia, stop making a scene. If anything happens to Selena, you won't be able to bear the responsibility. Chapter 2. I do not know how long Pablo had been gone. The wind and rain outside came in stronger and stronger waves. The lights in the room began flickering on and off. Suddenly, I heard the sound of the door lock turning. The cat jumped off the bed before I could. The two of us ran to the door one after the other. Sure enough, I saw Pablo pushing the door open and walking in. He was soaked through, his face pale. He had probably fallen somewhere because there was a streak of blood on his forehead. In that instant, concern overcame anger. I was almost about to blurt out a reproachful complaint. But Pablo turned slightly to one side. And said to the person behind him, Selena, don't be shy. Come in. I watched helplessly as Selena edged inside step by step. In that instant, my mind went completely blank. So Pablo had not only gone to check on Selena. He had brought her back home as well. Selena gave me an apologetic smile. Julia, my shoes are wet so I got the floor dirty. I'll have to trouble you to clean it up. But aside from her shoes and socks, hardly any part of her was wet. Probably because someone had been holding her in his arms the entire way back. I stood rigidly in the entryway, blocking the two of them from coming in. And so the three of us remained locked in a standoff. Until Pablo awkwardly ran a hand through his dripping wet hair. Julia, Selena has nothing at home. She's been busy doing experiments and writing reports. How could she have had the energy to go buy supplies? If the water or power gets cut off, she won't even be able to get a hot meal. That's why I brought her home. Our house has everything. One extra person won't make any difference, right? Pablo's arrangements were so thorough. As if he had not realized at all that he had brought Selena into our home without discussing it with me. Chapter 3. I could not throw Selena out. The typhoon had already arrived and the rain was pouring down in sheets. Street lights and trees had all been blown over. Forcing a fragile woman out in weather like this would be no different from killing her. And yet, a dark voice kept echoing inside me. Why not, Julia, this is your home. Why shouldn't you throw her out? A long, bitter ache spread through my throat and I numbly stepped back into the living room. All I could hear was Pablo attentively fussing over Selena. You can sleep in the guest room. The bedding was just changed, it's very clean. There are disposable toothbrushes in the bathroom drawer. Do you need a fresh towel? All at once, I found it a little laughable. Pablo was always busy with work and came home late every night. He rarely did any housework either. I had thought he had no idea where anything in the house was kept. So it turned out he knew after all. Selena went into the bathroom to shower. Only then did Pablo finally call my name. Julia, say something too. Selena is a guest, after all. You could be a little warmer. Warmer? I raised my eyes and looked at him, then asked calmly, did you get my permission before bringing her here? If someone enters without the owner's permission, then she isn't a guest. The sound of running water in the bathroom did not completely drown out my voice. I did that on purpose. Pablo panicked, just as expected. He pulled me into the bedroom. Only after the door was shut did he lower his voice to apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Julia, if you want to hit me or scold me, go ahead. But Selena is still my old classmate. She's in trouble and I can't just stand by and do nothing. And with so many classmates watching. I suddenly frowned. Classmates? What do your classmates have to do with this? Selena had asked for help in the university group chat. And the apartment she lived in was only 300 meters from my house. Pablo looked troubled. We live so close. If I didn't help Selena, what would our classmates think of me? And what would they think of you, Julia? I know you're worried I still have feelings for her. But if it had been any classmate today, I would have brought her home too. Don't worry, he took my hand and gave it a light shake. You are my wife. Right now, the only person I love is you. I froze. Pablo had always been cold and reserved. Even after 3 years of marriage, he had rarely spoken words of love to me. At this moment, was this his true feeling? Or was it just a temporary measure to make me agree to let Selena stay? I had not even had time to respond. When a sudden scream came from outside the door. Selena cried out, "It hurts. Help me." Chapter 4. My cat had always been well behaved. When friends came over, she would expose her belly. But at this moment, she shrank back into the corner warily, letting out a hissing sound. And on the back of Selena's delicate hand, fine beads of blood were already seeping out from the scratches. A subtle surge of delight suddenly rose inside me. See, Selena is the intruder in this home. Even the cat does not welcome her. Pablo's expression changed immediately. He crossed the room in a few quick strides to get the medicine kit. Don't move. I'll put medicine on it. Don't worry, Alice has been vaccinated. She doesn't carry any infectious diseases. She never scratches people. Maybe the weather is so bad today that she got frightened. His tone was full of guilt. But even more than that, it carried the indulgent affection of saying, my cat didn't do anything wrong. The heart I had just lifted sank back down all at once. Maybe I really was being overly sensitive and suspicious. Selena had been scratched by the cat, yet Pablo was siding with the cat. Maybe when it came to her, all he really had left was a bit of old classmate affection. I picked up the trembling Alice and kissed her on the head. Selena probably felt a little embarrassed because she secretly glanced at me. I didn't mean to either. I thought the cat still remembered me. My hand stopped in the middle of stroking Alice. Pablo and I had been married for 3 years. Alice had also been with us for 3 years. Pablo and Selena had broken up 8 years ago. He had always told me that after the breakup, they had never seen each other again. So why would my cat know Selena? As if she had noticed my shock, Selena lowered her head and let out a soft sigh. Back then, I was the one who brought Alice home. I fed her goat's milk and took her for vaccinations. She liked me a lot. So time really is a knife. After a few years apart, even people forget, let alone a cat. Chapter 5. Alice originally belonged to Selena. Pablo had never once mentioned this to me. My heart gave a heavy thud and I turned around and carried the cat back to the bedroom. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Pablo handing the cotton swab to Selena before hurrying after me. He must have seen the traces of tears at the corner of my eyes because his gaze flickered. He frowned and explained to me. The cat was bought by her, but after raising it for half a year, she had to go abroad. She had no choice but to leave it with a friend. Later, that friend was going to emigrate too, and it just so happened that we were getting married and you also like cats and dogs. That was why Pablo had asked me if I wanted to take in a cat. I still remember the day Pablo and I went to his friend's house to bring Alice home. At the time, I was bursting with joy. I hugged her, kissed her, and laughed. I could not believe I was about to have such a beautiful little angel. But back then, what had Pablo been thinking? Was it, I fulfilled her wish? Or was it, the pet we raised together has come back to my side? My lips trembled. The heaviness in my chest could neither be breathed out nor swallowed down. I let out a cold laugh and questioned Pablo. Alice is a cat your ex-girlfriend bought. Why didn't you tell me that 3 years ago? Were you afraid that if I minded, I wouldn't agree to keep her? Pablo fell silent. He lowered his gaze and only after a long while did he say, if it bothers you, you can give her back to Selena. 3 years. A whole 3 years. 1,000 days and nights. I had long since treated Alice as family. And Pablo could say so lightly that I could give her back to Selena. Then what about me? What about all the effort and care I had poured into her? I forced a few words out through clenched teeth. Pablo. Tonight, you're sleeping in the study. Chapter 6. It was already late at night. The wind was growing stronger and stronger. Even the glass was humming from the force of it. Alice was snoring evenly at my feet. But I kept tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep no matter what. In the end, I simply got up, opened my phone, and refreshed my social feed. The typhoon making landfall was a major event and all the local friends were sharing updates about how things were at home. Some were optimistic, some were complaining, and some were joking through the hardship. And just half an hour earlier, Selena had also posted an update saying she was safe. Thank you to my old classmate for taking me in. It makes me feel very safe. Rose. The photo had been taken looking out from the window of my home's guest bedroom. In the bottom corner, part of the pale blue curtain was visible. I stared at it and suddenly felt that it looked so unfamiliar. Why did it feel unfamiliar? From the renovation to the finishing touches, I had been the one in charge of this home. I had picked the pattern of every single curtain myself. I should have been very familiar with it. Perhaps it was because today, it had become nothing more than a backdrop for Selena. Over the years, I had added quite a few of Pablo's friends on social media too. These people, who never once chatted with me, were now enthusiastically leaving comments under Selena's post. Do you have enough food and drinks there? Stay safe. Until one mutual friend finally noticed something. Oh, that view outside the window looks just like one Pablo posted before. Don't tell me you're staying at his place. Congrats on getting back together. And then, even more people started commenting. Nice. I knew he never forgot you. Invite me to the wedding. It was as if no one remembered that Pablo was already married. That his wife was me. A wave of sadness with no clear source rose in my chest. For the past 3 years, I had poured my heart into building a home with Pablo. I had thought it was our fortress, indestructible. I had never imagined that one day it could also shelter another person. No, not just today. Maybe Selena had stayed here long before this. I clenched my phone so hard that my knuckles turned white. And just when I was almost unable to stop myself from going mad, I saw Pablo's reply. He replied to that mutual friend. Bro, don't get the wrong idea. My wife and I both welcomed Selena. We're just helping each other through a hard time. Fist salute. Chapter 7. Should I be happy? Pablo speaking up was the strongest proof that my marriage with him was stable. It also proved that he and Selena were completely innocent. But why did my heart still hurt so much? Probably because Pablo had never once mentioned me publicly on his social media. Back when we were newly married, we took wedding photos. I went through 400 pictures again and finally chose 4. Pablo, I'm going to post these. Do you want to post them too? But he only glanced at them and coldly shook his head. I have my advisor and many highly respected leaders in the industry on WeChat. It wouldn't look good if they saw them. Later, when we got married, it was only a small lawn wedding. I happily planned the seating arrangements. Pablo, how many tables do we need for your teachers, classmates, and co-workers? He instinctively frowned. Only a few of the closest ones will come, you know my work has confidentiality requirements. It's not suitable to make a big fuss. At the time, I told myself I understood that he was a low-key person. But now, he could mention me after all. Why? Curled up under the blanket, I only felt as if my head were splitting apart. Before I could think of an answer, the message alert on my phone suddenly started going off like crazy. I had been added to a group chat. There were 6 or 7 people in the group, all of them Pablo's university classmates. I had never chatted with any of them before, so why had they added me? I was still confused when the messages in the group suddenly seized my breath. Pablo is still such a man. One sentence from him was enough to prove Selena isn't the kind of slut who wrecks other people's families. Exactly. Love should be clean and spotless. Who would have thought that after all these years, the campus couple I shipped back then would still be handing out sugar? #Chapter 8. My WeChat name is Julieta, and at first glance it looks very much like a real name. Pablo really did have a university classmate with that exact name. Probably one of his classmates added me back then and never even bothered to change the note. So years later, when they made a small group chat, through sheer coincidence, they pulled me in by mistake. And that also let me find out that in these people's eyes, even after so many years, Pablo and Selena were still such a perfect match. In the 3 years of our marriage, it wasn't as if I had never tried to get close to Pablo's friends. But I truly could not fit into that circle. Every one of them was a top student from a prestigious school, and the things they talked about were obscure and profound. I couldn't understand them. And they didn't want me to understand them either. So I rarely attended Pablo's class reunions with him. The most recent time was the welcome dinner for Selena, who had just returned after finishing her studies abroad. At the time, I still did not know that she was Pablo's ex. I even joked with the person sitting next to me. Selena is so beautiful and elegant, she practically shines. She must have had a lot of people chasing after her in university, right? The woman beside me was the most approachable one among Pablo's classmates. When she heard me say that, she stared at me with a strange expression. Julia, you really don't know? Back in university, Selena was Pablo's girlfriend. #Chapter 9. To avoid embarrassment, I should have left the group chat. But instead, almost as if I were tormenting myself, I read every single sentence from every single person in that group. They were talking about Selena's academic achievements in Country M. They were talking about Pablo's recent project results. And in the end, they concluded, now that's what you call a perfect match, a couple made in heaven. Pablo's wife doesn't even know what SCI is. Who knows what tricks she used to climb into that position? They won't last. I let out a bitter laugh. And as I laughed, tears rolled down uncontrollably. Exhausted, I turned off my phone. But that group became lively again. Someone had shared a few videos. I was cleaning out my cloud storage the other day, and that's when I found the videos I took back when we were seeing Selena off abroad. Let me show everyone and we can reminisce about our youth. I knew I should not keep watching. And yet, I still tapped them open. Probably because my heart already hurt so much, a little more pain would not make a difference. 8 years ago, Pablo and Selena had broken up peacefully. Even the campus power couple could not escape the trials of graduation season. Selena had applied for graduate school in Country M. And Pablo's field involved cutting-edge technology, so going abroad was restricted for him. Both of them had put their careers ahead of love. So the breakup had seemed only natural. At the farewell party that day, both Pablo and Selena had been drinking, swaying unsteadily. Amid the chaotic background noise of the karaoke room, I heard Selena waving her arms as she shouted at Pablo. Pablo, listen carefully. Your future wife can't be prettier than me, can't have bigger breasts than me, can't be smarter than me, and definitely can't come from a better family than me. She has to be inferior to me in every way. That way, you'll never forget me for the rest of your life. A drunk person has no reason at all. That demand was utterly outrageous. He told me that when he was little, What he feared most was hearing his parents quarrel. When they fought, I would hide under the covers and curl myself into a tiny little ball. Sometimes I even thought that if I didn't exist, I wouldn't have to hear them fighting. Julia, let's not fight, okay? How ridiculous. I had worked so hard to be his wife. I had shown filial respect to his parents and elders. I had socialized with his teachers and classmates. I had been considerate of his emotions. So why was I the only one making an effort? Pablo said he would never hide anything from me. He was a liar. I put the suitcase and the documents by the door, then locked the bedroom door from the inside. Alice followed me every step of the way. Her round eyes were wide open, full of curiosity. She thought I was playing some new and interesting game. What a silly little thing. In that instant, I almost wanted to burst into sobs. But I held it in. This was not the time to cry yet. I buried my face in the soft fur at my cat's neck. Don't worry. I will still love you. Chapter 15. Pablo came back quickly. And he immediately realized that I had locked the door. Through the video doorbell, he explained anxiously, Selena asked for help in the class group and everyone was watching. If I didn't help her, people would say I was narrow-minded. And besides, saving a life is worth more than building a 7-story pagoda. If something had happened to her, would your conscience really be at peace? More grand principles. More grand principles again. If reason and morality actually worked, why were there still so many shameless, despicable men and women in this world? My heart tightened violently and I demanded sharply, Pablo, why did you marry me? After Selena, you dated 3 other women, but in the end, you chose me. Out of all your exes, I'm the least beautiful, the least educated, and I have the least impressive job, so why did you choose me to marry? Was it because you promised Selena you would find a wife who was inferior to her, right? Pablo froze. His voice came out hoarse with guilt. How did you find out about that? He did not deny it. And he had not forgotten it either. But he reacted quickly and tried to explain. It was drunken nonsense. No one took it seriously. The reason I married you was of course because I love you. Julia, you're 1,000 times, 10,000 times better than Selena. He seemed very sincere. But I cut him off immediately. Then why did you ask me to make breakfast for her? Silence. A silence so complete that I could almost hear Pablo's hurried breathing. He seemed to want to say something. Yet no matter what, the words would not come out. And suddenly, I felt a little relieved. I was not the one who had failed this relationship. So when it ended, the one who should be shattered with regret should not be me either. Chapter 16. Over the next few days, Pablo came to see me almost every day. He also sent quite a few people to persuade me. The most worked up one was my former roommate, the one who once asked me for my secret. She came by carrying a fruit basket. Looking around at the home Pablo and I had shared, she clicked her tongue in amazement. Such a beautiful house, and you're really just giving it up like that. Julia, your husband is handsome and capable. Being able to marry him is your good fortune. Don't be so dramatic. The moment you divorce him, hundreds or thousands of women will throw themselves at him. By then, it'll be too late for you to regret it. I ignored her completely and smiled faintly. If he's really that wonderful, then why does he need to ask you to come persuade me? My former roommate left in defeat. I also took the opportunity to find an apartment and move out. Pablo could only come wait for me at my company. But it just so happened that I was sent to a branch office in another city and I left without a word, taking Alice with me. So all he could do was return empty-handed. I blocked all of Pablo's contact methods, leaving only one phone number open in case he finally sent word agreeing to the divorce. He sent me long message after long message. And every so often, he would appear outside my company building. But I never got the reply I was waiting for, the signed divorce agreement. I knew he was dragging things out on purpose. He was probably thinking that humiliation too could fade with time. That once I had forgotten the pain after the wound healed, we could simply get back together. So I consulted a lawyer and filed for divorce. On the day the court notice was delivered, Pablo came again to my company dormitory. It happened to be raining that day too. Only the rain was nowhere near as fierce as on the night of the typhoon. Pablo was drenched from head to toe, his face full of pain. I promise I'll never contact Selena again. And I absolutely won't hide anything from you ever again. Didn't we say we'd walk through life together? Why do you have to be so cruel? Julia, you can't even bear to abandon Alice, so why can't you forgive me? Looking at how miserable he was, I could not help wanting to laugh. And I really did laugh. What right do you have to compare yourself to Alice? My cat's whole heart, her whole world, is me. When have you ever done the same? Pablo, why do your friends look down on me and even now still try to push you and Selena back together? Because of you. You look down on me, so your friends could never possibly respect me either. In the past, because I loved you, I forced myself to shut out those outside voices. But all of this storm was brought into my life by you. Chapter 17. Pablo left. I had thought he would finally give up trying to win me back. Instead, he publicly posted a photo of the two of us on social media. Standing by each other through wind and rain, thank you for walking with me all this way. I finally understand that marrying you has been the greatest happiness of my life. This was the first time in 3 years of marriage that he had ever posted a photo related to me. Those mutual acquaintances tactfully left likes on it. But Selena did not. The group chat I had been mistakenly dragged into, silent for days, finally became lively again. Weren't they living together with Selena before? Why is he suddenly showing off his love now? Maybe his wife forced him to post it. Out of jealousy or something. I still prefer shipping Pablo with Selena. His wife doesn't look that ugly after makeup. She still can't compare to Selena. You see, one fake social media post is useless. Real devotion sinks into the bones. It doesn't need to be proven to outsiders. I took screenshots of the group chat and sent them to Pablo. Stop trying so hard. It's embarrassing. Then I sent the divorce case filing receipt to the group. Everyone, enjoy shipping as much as you want. He cheated during the marriage, so feel free. And besides that, I sincerely wish that one day in the future, you'll all find yourselves in the same situation. Heart. After leaving the group chat, I opened my contacts and deleted those sanctimonious people one by one. Once I finished, the whole world felt quieter. I could peacefully stay in my own little world, raising my cat, reading, working, and waiting for the divorce hearing. Life was very calm. Until a few weeks later, I received a phone call. Pablo's mother said furiously, Pablo was hit by a truck on his way home from work. Why aren't you coming to take care of him, Julia? Until the divorce is finalized, you still have to fulfill your duties as his wife. I yawned, utterly unmoved. Auntie, you should be calling Selena. Not long ago, Pablo helped her avoid a life-threatening situation. Now it's the perfect chance for her to repay the favor. Chapter 18. Pablo's mother was an executive at a publicly listed company and devoted herself entirely to her career. She had never liked me very much. Perhaps she would have preferred someone as polished and accomplished as Selena for a daughter-in-law. In that case, why should I keep trying to earn her approval? But she actually let out a cold snort. Selena? How could she possibly take care of Pablo? She doesn't even know how to make chicken soup. Her tone softened and so did her posture. Pablo injured his right hand. If it doesn't heal properly, it will affect his future life. Julia, if you come take care of him, I'll feel the most at ease. I always tell Pablo that when choosing a wife, he should find someone like you, sensible and virtuous, so that he can focus on working hard outside without worry. I smiled faintly. But I'm working out of town. Auntie, I just got promoted. My salary doubled and I'm always working overtime. I really can't get away. She must not have expected me to refuse again and again because her voice grew darker. He is your husband. I replied lightly, not for much longer. The phone call ended abruptly. I could almost picture Pablo's mother raging with fury. She had probably never imagined that obedient little me would one day disobey her. She prided herself on being a powerful career woman. And I had heard her more than once encouraging the girls in the family to study hard. You should become people who contribute to society. Not bury your talents inside the family. Yet when it came to her own son, the daughter-in-law she preferred was still one who knew how to take care of her husband. Surprisingly, I wasn't angry. Not only because people who aren't worth it don't deserve my anger, but also because when someone already dislikes you, the best way to live is in a way that makes them dislike you even more. Winter passed and spring arrived. I was successfully promoted to vice president of the company. And then the date of our first court hearing finally arrived. Only then did I learn that Pablo's right hand had never fully recovered and it had been left with a tremor. To a certain extent, it affected his work and his social life. During pretrial mediation, he cried with genuine emotion. So it was no surprise that the divorce was not granted. After the hearing, Pablo walked toward me holding a red velvet box and smiling. "Julia, I brought you a gift. Think of it as celebrating the continuation of our marriage." Pablo looked up at me. His posture was almost reverent. Expressionless, I gave it a faint glance. "Heh. Diamonds. If I want something, I can buy it myself. Don't trouble yourself." Chapter 19. Half a year later, I filed for divorce again. I had thought I would be able to receive the judgment quietly and peacefully. But during the proceedings, Pablo and I were once again dragged into the center of public attention. Of course, not by choice. The central figure of the incident was Selena. She had gone camping overnight in the suburbs with a married man. His wife found out and exposed them. By coincidence, that furious wife was one of the people from that old group chat who had enthusiastically shipped their CP. Out of rage, she began lashing out online without restraint. "Selena, you and my husband are our schoolmates. I thought everyone knew each other and would at least keep some dignity. But I never expected you to be this shameless. Back when you moved into Pablo's house and caused his wife to ask for a divorce, I was even speaking up for you. I never imagined you were a habitual homewrecker all along. Selena, do you like spreading your legs that much? Then I'll help announce it to the whole world and let everyone come looking for you." She even sent a ceremonial banner to Selena's workplace. On it were the words, "Knowingly the other woman." That completely ruined Selena's reputation in her circle. It seemed that if the whip never landed on your own body, you would never know how much it hurt. I read all that gossip with great relish. I even thoughtfully left a comment under the post. "Congratulations." If I had known my words were this accurate, I would have said a few more. Chapter 20. On the day I successfully received the divorce judgment, Pablo cried very hard. He knelt in front of me and asked me over and over again what exactly he needed to do for me to change my mind. He said the injury to his arm would probably never heal for the rest of his life and that even buttoning his shirt was difficult. His mother kept forcing him to go on blind dates, which annoyed him endlessly. Because of his depression and the immense pressure, his work had shown no progress at all. Selena's public downfall had also affected his social circle so that no matter where he went, he was met with meaningful mocking looks. He muttered to himself, "It's all because of that typhoon coming to the city. It's all because Selena played tricks on me. Otherwise, I would still be with my wife." I had thought I might feel sympathy for Pablo. But hearing all that, the only thing left in my heart was contempt. His regret and his downfall were all of his own making. His loneliness and his despair were the consequences he had brought upon himself. Calmly, I pushed away the hands he stretched toward me and said each word clearly. "Pablo. May we never meet again." Chapter 21 Extra chapter. Ever since Pablo could remember, his parents had often fought. More than once, he had thought that if only his mother were a little gentler, things would be better. The mother of the neighbor's child was exactly that kind of gentle woman. So their family was very harmonious. Sometimes the husband would yell at her and she would only lower her head and say nothing. In the future, he thought, it would be best for him to have a gentle wife too. So after breaking up with Selena, he was only downcast for a few months before letting it go. She was beautiful, yes, but her personality was too strong. When she argued with him over right and wrong, she was always aggressive and pressing. She was not suited to be his wife. But Julia was different. He and she were not from the same world at all. In terms of looks, education, intelligence, prospects, or family background, he completely overshadowed her. He gave her, an orphan with both parents gone, a home. He even gave her the title of professor's wife, allowing her to rise in class. So of course, she would be grateful. And in fact, she really was. Pablo had been very satisfied with such a stable marriage. Until Selena returned to the country. It was not as if he had failed to notice the signals she was sending that she wanted to get back together. He found her a little ridiculous. Back then, when studies and love had been placed in front of her, she had chosen the former. How could there possibly be any reversal now? But even so, he had to admit that being remembered by the campus beauty from years ago felt pretty good. And with his friends adding fuel to the fire, he even started to feel that if sparks really did fly again, it would make for a beautiful story. So after Selena sent that message, "I'm all alone in the apartment, I'm so scared," his heart began to waver. It was not as though he had not realized Julia would be angry. But so what if she got angry? She loved him. She could not leave him. But everything went far beyond what he had expected. In front of Selena, Julia had become like a cat with its fur standing on end. She had even questioned him, asking why he wanted her to make breakfast for Selena. Pablo had always prided himself on being quick-tongued and eloquent, but at that moment, cold sweat covered him and he was left speechless. He simply did not dare say it. Bringing Selena home had indeed been driven partly by a man's instinct to protect, but even more importantly, Pablo had wanted to show off. "Look, my wife obeys me in everything. She's not like you were back then." If he had known what kind of disastrous consequences that little act of showing off would bring, he would never, ever have done it. On the way to take Selena home, Pablo was still thinking that Julia seemed to be truly angry this time and wondering how he should soothe her. But he never imagined that she would bring up divorce. At first, Pablo thought she was making a mountain out of a molehill. Then he became furious. He had already promised that he would stop contacting Selena, so why would she still refuse to believe him? And yet she was that determined. Moving out, going to another city, refusing to reply to any of his messages. She could not even bear to abandon the cat she had raised for 3 years. So how could she cast aside the husband she had lived with for 3 years just like that? Pablo had even thought, should he just let it go? There are always other women. But it was only then that he realized he could not live without Julia. Without her, the house always felt empty and lifeless. He had once thought that because Julia was not beautiful or brilliant, he held the superior position in the relationship. But only now did he realize that the one who had taken more was himself. And the one who had ruined everything was also himself. On the day Selena got into trouble, he witnessed the hysterics of his classmate's wife. While slapping her husband again and again, she cursed him furiously. "We're all adults. You've eaten what should be eaten, seen what should be seen. Don't even think about pretending to be innocent when it comes to that sort of thing between a man and a woman. I worked myself to the bone taking care of this home for you and you went off to play at ambiguity with someone else. You really are that shameless." She was cursing her own husband. But Pablo's face burned hot. He thought, luckily Julia had not cursed him like that. But then again, if letting her curse him once could make her change her mind and come back, then he would accept the scolding too. And right after that, he felt a little sad. That classmate's wife had been able to forgive her husband and allow him to return to the family. So why could Julia not do the same? She had truly cut all ties with him. Even at the divorce hearing, her face had remained completely calm. When he got the judgment, he could not hold himself up any longer and dropped to his knees in front of Julia. He remembered that he had said quite a lot. But she did not even want to spare him a single glance. Pablo had once assumed that it was the gap in their social standing that made Julia tolerant and yielding toward him. He was wrong. It was love. Once that love disappeared, he was no different from a stranger. At last, his heart truly died. Like a walking corpse, he returned home. When faced with his mother's concerned questioning, he finally exploded. He smashed the house to pieces. "Isn't all of this your fault? You kept arguing with my dad and never knew how to give in. Well, look what happened now. Julia learned it too." His mother stormed off in fury. From then on, time seemed to move more and more slowly. Pablo grew too lazy to keep track of it. The only thing that made him feel the passage of time was the occasional news he heard about Julia. She got promoted. She went traveling. She bought a new property. She was leaving. Going abroad to study. Her company was sending her because of her outstanding work performance. Julia shared a guide on social media about taking her cat through customs. My furry baby is already 13 years old. For all these years, it has watched me climb higher and higher one step at a time. So no matter where I go, I'll take it with me. I will never leave it behind. Pablo read and reread those lines, trying to guess what Julia had been feeling when she wrote them. She must have been very happy. And as for him, he probably would never be happy again. His aloof attitude made my sadness vanish instantly. Oliver sat down and looked at me steadily. Why are you crying? I don't want to talk about it. All right then. Want me to take you out for some fun? I glanced out the window. Now? It was already 11 at night. Rain was falling, accompanied by rolling thunder. Oliver raised an eyebrow. Yeah. Dare to come with me? I had always been timid, but somehow his challenge slipped past my guard. Let's go. That night Oliver rode his motorcycle at 180 kilometers per hour. The thrill shot from my tailbone straight to the top of my head. I screamed uncontrollably, burying my face into his back as rain mixed with my tears. When we reached the mountain top, I dialed Marco's number. I wanted to say a proper goodbye. 1 ring. 2 rings. 3. Someone answered. It was Lisa. Her voice was soft. Hello, is this Emma? All my words stuck in my throat. What remained was only the freedom that comes when obsession disappears. Yes. I'm looking for Marco. He's taking a shower. If you have something to say, you can tell me. I'll pass it on. There was a hint of provocation and possessiveness in her voice. But I didn't care. I smiled slightly. Tell him that Emma once liked him. But starting today, I've let it go. Chapter 10. Falling in love with Oliver seemed to happen naturally. He had an outgoing personality. When he wanted something, he would fight for it and seize it. When he first confessed to me, I hesitated a little, worried that I hadn't fully walked out of my previous unrequited love and that it would be unfair to Oliver. Oliver didn't care about that at all. He held me in his arms and planted a loud kiss on me. Arrogantly he said, Emma, if being with me still leaves someone else's shadow in your heart, then it must mean I'm not doing well enough as your boyfriend. I'll reflect on myself and treat you even better. It turned out I had worried too much. Oliver and Marco were completely different people. Oliver was passionate, bold, his overwhelming love almost swallowed me whole. So after 3 years together, we decided to get engaged and register our marriage. What I hadn't expected was for Marco to suddenly reappear. After I chased him away that night, I thought I had made things clear enough. A few days later, it was Marco's mother's birthday banquet, and I brought Oliver along to deliver a gift. The moment we stepped into his house, I met Marco's dark gaze. In just a few days, he had lost a lot of weight and looked strangely worn out. Oliver, not understanding the situation, smiled and held my hand even tighter. I gently patted his arm to reassure him. Then I handed the gift to Marco's mother. Auntie, happy birthday. She sighed as she accepted it, then glanced at the hands Oliver and I were holding. Emma, thank you for the gift. And this is? Oliver nodded politely. Hello, Auntie. I'm Emma's fiancé. She glanced regretfully at her son. You're the lucky one, being able to marry such a good girl like Emma. Oliver looked extremely pleased, making me pinch him secretly. After dinner, Oliver had something to attend to and left first. I was walking in the garden when Marco followed me again. He grabbed my arm. Emma, I've already fired Lisa. Lisa had been working at his company as his secretary. He fired her just like that. I frowned at him. Why did you fire her? I don't want you to misunderstand my relationship with her anymore. I was speechless. Marco stepped closer. Emma, I know I was wrong in the past. I didn't know how to cherish you. I'll change. I won't have any contact with Lisa anymore. Can you give me another chance? Chapter 11. The faint madness in Marco's eyes forced me to step back again and again. I was afraid he might do something extreme. At that moment, Lisa suddenly rushed out from somewhere and charged at me, trying to hit me. "Emma, you bitch." Before I could dodge, Marco shoved her to the ground. "Lisa, are you crazy?" "I'm not crazy. It's this bitch who seduced you. That's why you abandoned me." Lisa cried bitterly. "We've known each other for so many years. Why won't you choose me? Do you know my parents and relatives all thought we would get married? Now you suddenly break it off. Have you ever thought about what I'm supposed to do?" Her eyes, red as if bleeding, glared at me. "This is all your fault. If you hadn't come back, Marco wouldn't have abandoned me, and I wouldn't have been forced to resign from the company. Emma, you already have everything. Why are you pushing me to the edge? Can't you just let me go?" My head was starting to ache. "Miss, are you blind? You two are the ones who won't leave me alone. I already told you I have a boyfriend. One of you keeps confessing to me, and the other keeps chasing me to insult me. What, you can't manage a relationship without dragging me into it? I've been abroad for 5 years. If you two were really in love, your kid would already be buying soy sauce by now. What does any of this have to do with me?" Lisa couldn't hear a word. She pulled out a knife and advanced toward me. "I don't care. It's all because of you. Only if you die will Marco return to my side. Only then will I have a good life. So Emma, go die. Stop getting in my way." The blade flashed. At the instant it came down, Marco grabbed it tightly. Blood dripped down endlessly. I froze. Lisa froze as well. She completely collapsed. "You studied design. Don't you care about your hands anymore?" Marco's lips turned pale as he stared at her expressionlessly. "I don't care anymore. Nothing is more important than Emma." Lisa broke down crying and collapsed on the ground, covering her face. I looked at the two lunatics speechlessly, regretting my own foolishness when I was younger. After calling an ambulance, I also called the police. Lisa was stunned. "Are you crazy? You called the police?" I shrugged. Getting rid of troublemakers is every citizen's responsibility. Life isn't a novel. I have no obligation to repay harm with kindness. If Lisa dared to attack someone with a knife today, tomorrow she might seek revenge. Someone like that is much safer behind bars. Chapter 12. Because of intentional assault, Lisa would face a prison sentence. I heard that she tried several times to contact Marco through intermediaries, but Marco ignored her completely. I didn't comment on it. I was busy preparing the engagement banquet with Oliver. It was only when Marco's mother came to find me and said Marco wanted to see me that I went to the hospital. As soon as I walked in, I saw his hand wrapped in thick bandages. He was lowering his head, lost in thought. Hearing the movement, his eyes lit up slightly. When he realized it was me, the corners of his lips lifted a little. But when his gaze fell on my ring finger, that faint spark dimmed again. "Emma, you came. After all, we grew up together." I placed the fruit basket I brought on the table. "I remember you like pineapple and apples, so I bought some." "Thank you." He watched as I sat down and took out a knife to peel fruit. Suddenly he said, "I remember in our second year of high school when I had appendicitis. You stayed with me like this too." When he said that, I remembered as well. Thinking about it carefully, that was the last peaceful time between Marco and me. He was sick, lying quietly in bed for once. I brought desserts and fruit from home and silently kept him company. Marco didn't like noise. He leaned against the pillow reading Ordinary World, while I held a fruit knife and peeled the apples he liked. And 4 was in his hand, so it was inconvenient for him to hold a toothpick. I stabbed a piece of apple and fed it to him. His warm lips brushed my fingertips, making my heart tremble. He blinked and smiled, saying, "Thank you." One glance that felt like forever. After that, whenever Marco's coldness became unbearable to me, I would remember that day. Warmth would always rise in my heart, convincing myself that he wasn't cold, just not good at expressing himself. And so I stumbled again and again until my heart finally died and I went abroad. After so many years, I could finally ask him calmly. "Marco, back in senior year, why were you so good to Lisa?" He looked at me, slightly confused. Was I good to Lisa? Yes. Back then, traces of her were everywhere in your life. You cared about her grades, worried about her health, filled your car with things related to her. You even let her throw the birthday gift I gave you into the mud. So even if I didn't want to believe it, I had to admit, you spoiled her completely. After so many years, speaking of those grievances again only left a calm indifference. That unfinished love was never my destiny. Marco was silent for a long time before speaking. So that's how it was. I never understood why you suddenly went abroad back then. So that was the reason. What if I told you that the reason I treated her well was because the teacher privately asked me to look after her? She was a poor student and easily bullied in class. Her family situation wasn't good, so the teacher asked me to take care of her more. That's why I did those things. Do I still have a chance to start over? I laughed softly. Marco, you're an adult. Don't you think what you just said sounds ridiculous? If you had at least admitted your own feelings, I might have respected you more. Now I only think you're cowardly and crude. If he didn't like her, why had he given her so many special treatments? In the end, he simply refused to admit that he had fallen for a woman whose family background was inferior to his.